Hello there again, it's Sadiq here. Another look at the look around the Affinity Photo program, photo editing and creative work. The last time we looked at the tools on the left hand side, just an overview of that. If you remember, I said that if you click on each particular tool, just like in most other editing programs, you then get context sensitive additional options in that horizontal bar there. But just above it is what we call the toolbar. That's different to the tools on the left and different to the tool context sensitive options here. So let's just go through the toolbar, and then we'll go along to the palettes, or what I call the palettes on the right hand side, which we use a lot, but Affinity Photo actually calls them workspaces. So initially, let's have a look at these 5 broad areas of photo editing. They're called personas in Affinity Photo. So we're in the photo persona, which basically is the standard editing section of Affinity Photo. So all the basic edits, all these tools and so on, that's where you'll probably spend most of the time editing, unless it's a raw file. And then the raw persona, which is called the develop persona. So in the develop persona, when you click on that, you have a different but limited set of tools on the left hand side. But what you have actually is what we call the development or the processing of your raw image. Now, this isn't a raw image, this is a JPEG. You can still use this persona even on a JPEG, but it's primarily made for editing and fine-tuning and developing the raw file out of your camera if you take in raw. And of course that's very useful, and we'll do more an in-depth section on raw developing in a later video. So we got the so we don't want to develop anything, so okay. So you got the photo persona, you got the develop persona, you've got the liquefy persona. You know, that's really a glorified version of one of the tools in the toolbar, which was enable you to manipulate pixels and move them about and basically modify the image in a creative way. But this particular liquefy is really that tool on steroids. So you got swirls there, you've got all sorts of, for example, if I click on that and do this, it allows you to do all sorts of different things. Again, this tutorial isn't about in depth in any of these areas. This is to give you an overview. Okay, so that's the liquefy persona. Huge amount of options within that. Then we've got the tone mapping. So again, more detailed in another video, but the tone mapping allows you to quickly adjust the tonal range of your images. So you can say that's naturals, detail, cool, high contrast, black and white, or dramatic. Let's say dramatic, and it straight away is giving us quite a dramatic color palette. Again, on the right hand side, we've got whole range of variables which we can adjust to suit. Okay, so that's in the so we don't want to save that. That's in the tone mapping. And then the last one of the 5 personas, the 5 broad areas, is the export persona. Now, personally, I don't think it's necessary to use the export persona in day-to-day exporting of your files, but there are instances where you might want to do a whole group of photographs, and therefore you might want to use this particular section, but typically you can do it within the file and export option. But again, you've got all your normal options on the right hand side of what type of file, what compression rate, size, and so on. But again, let's go back into the photo. But you can do that within here for most uses. So it's file and export, and of course you've got the different file types, size, type, compression, quality, and so on, the whole document or a certain area. You can see the file size there. So that's what I tend to use, and most people will use that rather than the export persona. So most of the personas you'll use is the photo editing and the develop, those two mainly. Now, earlier on I talked about the option of customizing the toolbar, but you can also customize the tools here as well, add and remove those tools, which I didn't mention last time. And so to do that, you go into view and customize tools. Now this customized toolbar here is customizing that top one, but customized tools brings up all the tools on the left, and you might want to add to those. For example, that particular tool isn't there, the displacement map tool. So if I wanted that, I just click and drag it to there. If I don't want it, I just click it into there and it goes. And of course you can reset it back to factory settings, or add tools and remove tools, because you can see there's a lot of space there to add more tools should you need that. So that's the toolbar at the top. We've looked at the personas, and to edit this particular toolbar, you right click, customize toolbar, and a lot of these tools are already up in the top, but if they weren't, or if there's an additional one, for example this particular tool, if you wanted that, you're going to use that a lot, you just click and drag it and place it and it will be in there. Or if you don't want it, you can take it back out again. Maybe this particular tool, you could pop it in there, or you can take it out and you can customize it. And then again, there's spaces here where you can add more tools should you need to. Mainly if you're using, all those tools are hidden in the menus, but of course if you want to use them and for them to be at your fingertips, then you can put them in the toolbar. Personally, in most instances, for most people, you probably wouldn't need to add further tools. And then on the right hand side, we've got, as I said, the palettes or the workspaces, and you've got your normal ones, your color palette, your swatches, where you can select different types of swatches, grayscale colors, gradients, and different Pantone color ranges. You've got brushes. Now this is a big part of any photo editing, is the types of brush, where you can customize brushes. I've got a whole new video coming up with regards to creating your own brushes or customizing these brushes. And each brush, for example, that one, if you double click it, you've got a whole range of parameters where you can change the nature and the style and the parameters of that particular brush. So more about that obviously when we look at brushes. You can add your own brushes as well. In here I've actually got some watermark brushes here, which are essentially signatures, which you can put on there if you want to. Okay, so we'll be looking at that. So we'll go back to basic. And then you've got your histogram. Most people are familiar with the histogram. You have it on your camera that comes with the image that you take. It basically tells you the dynamic range of that particular image, either as brightness or as color values. And of course you can change that along here to see different color values. That's a reasonably good spread of blues, reds and greens, but some images will have more, some will have less of each particular element. So those are the 4 tabs along the top there for this particular palette, and you can customize some of these by clicking on that the 3 bars. So you can select different types and customize them. For example, in the brushes, you might want to click on that and say you want to create a new category, which is how I did the watermarks. That was one I created myself. Okay, and then the next one is a palette, of course, we'll use again a lot of. Let's just put that back to colors. Layers shows all your layers that you're working on when you're editing. Your adjustment, which really is this adjustment layers here. So this is exactly the same as that. Now, why you would want to have it presented in two different ways, I'm not entirely sure, but again, depends on how you work. You might want to have it just click from that. I personally just go to there and select it from that. You got different effects, shadows, blur, inner glow. The 3D works really well with text. That's something we can look at another time. Styles and stock footage, if you want to import some stock footage from a service called a service called Unsplash. So that's something that you might want to look into. And then at the bottom, finally, we've got these palettes here. The history palette, which of course shows you all the steps that you've been doing on a particular image. You've got the navigator, so you can move around the image. You've got transform, and you've got channels as well. Okay, so again, I'm only giving you an overview at this stage, but of course we'll be going into all of these in more depth as we get more familiar with Affinity Photo. So that's a quick rundown of the how to customize the tools on the left, how to customize the toolbar at the top, what the different 5 personas are, and also the context sensitive parameters and variables here, which depend on which tool that you've got clicked along here. Okay, and then we've got these palettes on the right hand side. Now, if ever you want to change what's in view, you just go to the top, view, and this tells you what's visible and what isn't visible, and you can change options here, or you can go into the window and actually change parameters within that as well. But you'll find most of it will be in the view option. Okay, thanks very much. I hope that's useful. Have a look, and a lot of them, of course, will have text that will pop up that tell you what each one is as you hover over it. But if unsure, try it out, or just use the help menu if you want to search for anything within the help menu for Affinity Photo. That'll guide you through as well. Okay, thank you.